to my channel. So today we're gonna be coloring in Prima Princess, a watercoloring book. This video was very well requested. This one is gonna be definitely for beginners. How to color skin very easily with watercolors. Now I want you guys to understand that this video is more intended for people that color in coloring books or crafters or card makers. If you're looking for more professional tips and information, I would suggest that you go look for another video, because this video is mostly for beginners 101. Okay, so the first thing is I want you guys to understand, whenever you are working with watercolor paper, it's gonna take longer to dry whenever you are using watercolors on your actual paper, opposed to a regular coloring book. Like, let's say this type of book right here. As you can see, the paper is not watercolor, but it does have a nice thickness to the paper, which will still let you use watercolor, but with this type of paper, it will warp a little bit depending on the thickness of the paper. You could still use watercolors on this type of books. With that being said, you guys, whenever you are using watercolors on watercolor paper, I suggest that you have a heat gun or a fan or something like that to speed up the process, so it doesn't take forever to, you know, use watercolors. Now there is different ways or different forms that watercolors come from, or come in, better yet. Some come in watercolor pencils. And some come in watercolor pens. Now there is different grades of watercolors. There is professional watercolors, there's student grade watercolors, and then, like I said, a hobby watercolor, or for kids watercolors. And when I say kids watercolors, I mean like Crayola brand or any other brand that is that sort of like Crayola brand. And then right here, this is one of my custom made palettes, the colors that I tend to use the most. I have a mixture of Holbein's, Winsor & Newton, not Cotman, because Cotman is a student grade, and then Daniel Smith. But if you're a beginner, just a thing that I would say I prefer, me personally, I feel like it's easier to use watercolor pencils. And the reason why I say that is because they're very versatile, where you could basically, let's just take, before we actually get to the coloring part, you have your color pencil right here. You could use it directly onto your book, like you color into it, or you could grab your water brush or regular water pencil brush, and yeah. But me personally, I prefer the water brush because I get to control how much water flows out of the nib right here onto the bristles of the water brush. And so you guys know, my favorite brand of water brushes is the Pentel. I really like them. They're very durable. You can never go wrong with this type of brush, the Pentel brush. Okay, so like I was saying, you could add the pencil onto the coloring book, or you could use it as a watercolor palette, where you draw the color onto a plastic sheet or something like that. Draw it right there, and then let's say you want to take a yellow. So you color the yellow right there. Let me take a little paper out right here. And then I decided I want some red, right? So I lay down the red. And I am in control how much pigment is being deposited onto the paper. Now, you could go ahead and lay the color down onto the paper, and it's going to be more pigmented, as you can see. Or, like I said, you could use it like that, or add texture to it. Once you add texture onto a wet surface like this, mind you, this you only do it unless you want some textures. You won't be able to take off that texture that you have already laid down with your color pencils. Like I did right here, I added some texture where I added some polka dots, and then I just blended out a little bit the pigment, but the texture was still there, and it's still going to be there even if you try to blend it. Another thing is, let's clean up our brush, where I take my yellow, so I have my yellow right there, and then I take some of that reddish color and I mix those together, and I create a different color right there. So that's why I say color pencils, watercolor pencils are very versatile. There's different brands of watercolor pencils, but I feel like Faber-Castell Albert Durs are one of my favorite because of how creamy and pigmented they are. I even have the Caran d'Ache. What are they called? Here they are. I have the Caran d'Ache Super Color Soft, and let me tell you guys, even though this was way more expensive than the Faber-Castell, I prefer 10 times more the Faber-Castell than the Super Color Soft. Even though this one's right here, they have more of a neutral, soft pastel-y colors going on, but I feel like you get more worth your money with a Faber-Castell Albert Durs watercolor pencils. Okay, so with that being said, you guys, let's start off with just a simple basic skin tone color, okay? In this video, I'm not really going to talk about too much layering, because when it comes down to layering, it's kind of overwhelming, especially for a beginner. So the first thing I am going to do is either deciding what undertone I'm going to want my skin or her skin to be. So for the purpose of this video, I think I am going to go ahead and take a very light yellow, which is cream, and I'm going to add this cream right here in the inner part where I see the shadows. That's where I'm going to deposit that yellow. You don't even have to follow where the shadows are at. You could add the yellow wherever you want. Remember, whenever you are coloring, is to have fun and not to overthink it. And don't ever compare your work with anybody else's work. Because you guys need to understand, sometimes even people that have been coloring for years, they tend to layer and layer and layer colors on top of colors. And some of them actually use solvents. Okay. So I'm adding that yellow right here in the inner parts. And the reason why I'm laying the color on the outer edges and not in the center, because I still want to leave a highlight to the face. Kind of like this right here. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm gonna go ahead and take my Pentel brush, and as you can see, my brush is insanely wet from the moist that it's letting out. I don't want it that wet, so I'm gonna go ahead and wipe my brush onto my little napkin. And there we go. That's the type of moist that I want, slightly, where you could actually see that it starts drying up by itself instead of leaving a little puddles of water onto your finger. Okay, so let's go ahead and start watering that down. And if you don't want any harsh lines whenever you are coloring with watercolor, you want to go ahead and brush that excess color off your brush and go back in with clean water that this, you know, it comes down into the nib part. So that's why I tend to clean up my brush a lot, you guys, just like that, because I am blending those harsh edges, because I don't want no harsh edges at all. Sometimes you do, depending on how you want to go ahead. And as you can see, I don't know if you guys can see that harsh line right there. You guys could leave it like that, but personally me, I don't like that. So I'm going to go ahead and blend that. So whenever you are coloring in watercolor paper, it does give you more of a wiggle time to clean up whatever mess you have done. Like let's say you got out of line and now it's stained somewhere else the color that you don't want it to be. You could go ahead and deposit some water and tap it with your napkin and it just comes off, as you can see. That's what it did right there. There we go. We're almost done with that first layer. And the reason why I say as well that you don't want your brush to be super wet is because we don't want the paper to be super wet where it is going to take forever to dry. We're trying to spend the less minimal time in coloring our first layer. And the reason why I say that is because you want to go ahead and color and not just sit there and wait for it to dry up. Personally, that's my opinion. Another thing, if you feel like it's taking forever to dry, you could go ahead and tap your water brush onto the tip of your pencil and deposit the color just like that. Like I'm just gonna do it right now. I'm gonna go ahead and grab some of that color, deposit it right here where I have taken off that color when I showed you guys how you guys can remove a color if you guys don't want it. So there we go. So once again, that's color cream, okay? Excuse me if you guys hear a cough in the background. That's my daughter right there. She's sick. She stayed home today. So the next color that I'm going to be taking is light magenta. And I'm able to touch the surface where the face is at. It's already dry. Why it's already dry? Because I made sure that my brush was not completely wet. I just wanted it to be slightly moist, and that's for the reason that I wanted to be able to go on top with another color pencil onto the watercolor paper. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and add that magenta. Is a magenta, light magenta, in the inner parts, and some in that shadow right here. And this is not for makeup purposes. Okay. Just like that. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and make sure our brush is moist, slightly moist, not wet. And once again, I'm blending those colors. And this color and the yellow are just gonna help us make sure that our face is not fully flat with just one color. I'm not sure if you're able to see or tell the colors apart in the actual camera, but in person you can start seeing that slight dimension of the different colors. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take that magenta again right here. And you could be messy with your application as well. You don't have to be precise. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid if you make a mistake. You could easily go on top and add more or take it off with your napkin. Just moisten up that area and wipe it. Not wipe it, but dab it. Okay. So I feel like she needs more of this magenta onto this side of the face. And more slightly here. I'm focusing that color a lot on this sides. I went over the hair, so I'm just gonna wipe that off. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and add some of that magenta back down here. And underneath the lip area. Make sure our brush is moist again. Okay. So now that we've done that, once again, that color was magenta. We're gonna go ahead and add what color should we add? We're gonna be using these two colors right here. We're gonna be using Live Flesh. So we're gonna go ahead and deposit Live Flesh here. And this, we could actually start bringing it more inward, the skin area. because this is light flesh right here. So we're gonna go ahead and start coloring or watercoloring this part right here. And you can still slightly see that yellow and that magenta that we laid down first. I mean. And so there we go. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and add the light flesh in the inner parts of the skin right here, slightly, you guys. Just like that. Once again, you can still see that magenta and that cream that we laid down. Now, since I don't have a heat gun because I broke mine, you guys, I do have something else. So let me go get it. I have this little fan right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that I semi-dry that before I start adding more layers, because if you feel it with your bare hand on the actual paper, you can start feeling that it's gonna start slightly warping because I'm overworking the watercolor paper. So with a little bit of air and stuff like that, you're gonna be able to, you know, work even faster for it to dry. So it's already drying. And that's what I want. I'm gonna put it a little bit more high. Once again, this process would have been faster if you have a heat gun. But the heat gun will make a lot of noise, you guys. Okay. So now that we're done with that layer, once again, that color that we used was light flesh. We're gonna go in now with cinnamon. Cinnamon, or you guys could go in with medium flesh. You know what? Let's go in with medium flesh. And medium flesh, we're not gonna bring it inward either because it's gonna start getting darker like that. But we are gonna add it where the shadows are at and bring it just slightly in. So we're gonna put that medium flesh right there, some right here, and onto the side right here, focusing that shadow up here. And slightly over here, and more right here, and some right here. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start. We're gonna grab the smaller one. Bringing that in. You guys see that? And again, every time I do go back onto my paper, I clean off my brush. Okay. And to me, it's starting to look a little bit too pink, so to neutralize that, I am going to go ahead again and add that cream color that we did use in the beginning. So you guys see that harsh line right there? I'm going to go ahead and blend it. Blend it. And there we go, you guys. It's coming along. What do you guys think? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and add the medium flesh again. Some here, maybe a little bit right here, a little bit of here, and then definitely down here. Okay. We're not bringing it way too inward. We're keeping that in the outside. So whenever I do watercolor, I do tend to concentrate a lot more and less, and I do less talking. Okay. Now that we've done that, I am going to go ahead and dry that a little bit to help me speed that up. Instead of going with that cream color, I am going to go ahead and add Naples yellow. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add Naples yellow, probably right here, some right here, to bring life back to that image. And so it does not look too pinky. And add that yellow, you guys. Don't forget that Naples yellow. Okay, so let's go ahead and start blending that. Can you guys see it's starting to bring back life to that image instead of making it look way too pinky? There we go. Tell me what you guys think so far. Again, I am bringing that yellow into that pink part to neutralize just a tad bit, you guys. Again, I am being a tad messy. And you know what? I'm going to add a little bit more of that Naples yellow onto the forehead area. And maybe slide to the nose area. And start blending those Just like that. You can see that? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and bring some more of that yellow inward. Right here. You guys see that? I use that technique of adding the pigment straight to the, from my brush into this area is right here. So I'm head cleaning that area out of. Okay. Take a little bit more of that Naples yellow underneath right here. Add it a little bit more underneath the lip area. Just like that, you guys. Okay. So now that we've done that, so once again, that was Naples yellow. We're gonna take cinnamon right here. And once again, you wanna go ahead and dry that up because we have been doing so much layering. Not as much as when you're actually doing layering. And I mean, I take sometimes, I've done actual couple of drawings that has took me about a week or two because I like to layer and layer and layer and add more vibrance, highlights. It's beautiful when you just sit there and watercolor. It just gets you out of your comfort zone. You get to learn new techniques while you're watercoloring. There's always something new that you learn while you color. Always. And if you don't, it's because you're not stepping out of your comfort zone. Okay, now that that's done, you guys see that? You could guys leave it just like that and it will look very pretty as well. But since I like to add a little bit more bronze into that look, I'm gonna go ahead and take cinnamon and add cinnamon here to the inner parts here, just to give her more of a bronzy look. You don't need to go overboard with this one, just a little bit, you guys. Okay, go ahead, make sure your handy napkin is near you. Remember, you don't want to overwork your paper because then if you overwork your paper, it's going to start crumbling and it's just going to look very grainy. Keep that in mind, you guys. Okay. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and start grabbing the pigment off the actual brush. We're almost done, you guys. Hopefully this video is not super long because it's going to take forever to upload. Okay, you guys. Okay, so You guys could leave it just as this, just like that, and it will look so pretty. Since I'm just showing you guys how to color skin, that's about it, you guys. There is where you could go in with brown ochre just to add more bronzy into the look. Like I said, this part right here, you guys could just leave it like that. It really looks nice. This is just a very light skin tone color where with different undertones underneath, and you can still see that coming through even though we lay those other colors on top. And that is the beautiful work of watercoloring, that you could see the undertones, sometimes the ones that you put first before, I mean after, or before or after, you guys know what I mean. You guys can still see that when you lay those colors first down, and then even after layering and layering, because you're doing light washes and creating that depth that you still want, but you still, that color that you lay down first is still coming through. Okay, so this part is optional, you guys. I'm taking brown ochre and I'm adding it here. Okay. And I'm just adding it slightly right here. I'm not bringing it all the way down or anything like that, you guys. So there we go. I'm gonna add just a little bit more of that brown ochre, just slightly right here. And some right here. And some underneath the nose area right here. Just like that. And some underneath right here. And then maybe some over here underneath the neck area. So you can start seeing that there is slight definition underneath the neck area. Okay. Okay, you guys, maybe a little bit right here just to help it neutralize this too much pink right here. And there you guys go. That's all you needed to create a very light-skinned fair women. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe for more videos like this, and make sure if you do subscribe to hit the little bell to get notified whenever I do upload new videos. Bye.